It was a sight Smithville, Mississippi Police Chief Darwin Hathcock will never forget.
It was just like a monster headed this way. It was a very, very large funnel cloud.
At that same moment, Smithville Mayor Greg Kennedy dove under a desk at City Hall as the super tornado passed directly overhead.
All you felt was just pressure in your head, and all you could hear was just a roar.
The tornado came in the middle of the afternoon, right through the heart of downtown Smithville. When the storm had passed, there was debris everywhere, like the remains of this house. The downtown area was destroyed, and 15 people were dead.
Longtime resident Danny Chisholm managed to shepherd his family into this homemade underground shelter, which may have saved his life. When he climbed to the surface, it looked like a bomb had detonated. The whole neighborhood was gone.
I knew we wasn't going to have no home when we come out. You couldn't even see the streets when you walked out. I didn't know where to go. You couldn't tell one place from another, and everything looked the same.
Chief Hathcock had a similar reaction as he surveyed the damage.
I thought nobody could have survived it because the view I got when I stood up, I looked back in this direction and there was nothing there.
Most of the homes were destroyed, cars crushed, and lives devastated. Nearby, every building in Smithville's downtown was destroyed from the hardware store to the gas station. This town of 900 people wiped off the map in minutes. But days later, a major cleanup has begun. The city has been designated a federal disaster area, and emergency officials are on the scene to help the recovery effort. It'll take months, if not years, and the emotional scars could take even longer to heal.
Oh, I'm very lucky to be alive because the only thing left that's not crushed in City Hall is the boardroom table that we were under.
Many residents like Danny Chisholm are hoping to rebuild.
It may get it again, but we're going to try it.
Despite losing 2 close relatives, he wants to stay. But it's likely his hometown will never be the same again. Joe Ball, CCTV, Smithville, Mississippi.
Thank you very much.
Elena Kagan's nomination for Solicitor General in 2009 was confirmed without a dramatic battle from congressional Republicans. Obama lauded Kagan's ability to sympathize with multiple points of view.
Elena is widely regarded as one of the nation's foremost legal minds. She's an acclaimed legal scholar with a rich understanding of constitutional law.
Now, however, Obama is nominating Kagan to a very different type of position altogether, a seat on the United States Supreme Court. If confirmed, Kagan would be the first justice appointee with no prior justice experience in over 40 years. It's not just her lack of experience that has opponents worried, it's the prospect of judicial activism. Wendy Wright, president of Concerned Women for America, believes Elena Kagan will defer to ideology over the Constitution.
Elena Kagan has been fairly private with her own beliefs, except in one very well-publicized case, and that was when she signed on to amicus briefs challenging the law to protect the integrity of the military.
That case, says Wright, was a red flag that gave notice of a willingness and even passion to wage extreme ideological battles in the courts.
The arguments that were made were so outrageous that none of the justices on the Supreme Court agreed with her. Even the most liberal justices did not agree with her.
Bill Saunders, senior vice president and senior counsel for Americans United for Life, also believes Kagan shows signs for activism and warns against the impact that might have.
If the history of America has been the growth of judicial activism. In my opinion, it's the biggest threat to democracy. It's the biggest problem we have. It's bigger than any single issue.
The United States Supreme Court is the highest rule of law in the land. Their role in a 3-branch system of government is to keep the other 2 branches accountable to the Constitution.
Saunders says that judicial activism is undermining democracy.
We need to have judges respect the Constitution. And what happens if you're a citizen and you don't like the way things are? Well, you petition your legislators, they pass a bill in Congress, and then that's the law. You don't go around that process by getting judges to do what the legislators won't do. That's not democracy.
The Obama administration would like to see the confirmation of Elena Kagan for Supreme Court Justice go just as smoothly as her confirmation for Solicitor General in 2009. However, with so much more at stake with this appointment and a midterm election coming up in the fall, that is unlikely. Joe Ball, CCTV, Washington.
I promise you. Good to see you.
President Obama visited the Gulf of Mexico this week to see the oil spill cleanup process firsthand. In a speech at the White House before he left, he used the oil spill as a platform, making a push for renewable sources of energy.
More than anything else, this economic and environmental tragedy, and it's a tragedy, underscores the urgent need for this nation to develop clean, renewable sources of energy.
The administration responded to this oil spill by halting a large number of oil production ventures.
We're going to be ordering the following actions. First, we will suspend the planned exploration of 2 locations off the coast of Alaska.
The administration shut down not only new permits for future exploration, but 33 oil wells that were already in explorative production prior to the April spill.
I think they went too far, and these are the kind of things that will have an impact on the price of oil and the price at the pump.
Eric Smith, Associate Director at the Tulane Energy Institute, says there is more danger than just higher prices at the pump.
The perverse result of shutting down deepwater drilling will be to increase imports, hence increase the risk of transportation spills.
But the president says he does not intend for this to exacerbate a dependence on foreign oil.
We're still years off and some technological breakthroughs away from being able to operate on purely a clean energy grid. During that time, we're going to be using oil. And to the extent that we're using oil, it makes sense for us to develop our oil and natural gas resources here in the United States and not simply rely on imports.
So why the push to shut down so much production? Ben Lieberman of the Heritage Foundation says Obama has long been trying to move away from oil use and as a result taken aim at oil companies.
Well, even before the oil spill, the Obama administration had really cracked down on new offshore and onshore oil and natural gas leasing. So clearly there was a pattern of trying to move away from these fossil fuel sources.
Douglas Meffert, Deputy Director for the Tulane Xavier Center for Bioenvironmental Research, says the government has provided, but private investment has not followed.
There were billions of dollars that came from the Obama administration in terms of investing in renewables, and many of them going to private companies. The challenge is actually that a lot of these government funds, to whether it be an academic institution or a private company, they're requiring a 20 to often 50% match from non-federal sources to get those funds.
That restriction has made research and development prohibitive for private investment. Venture capital has been unavailable because, as Eric Smith says, the return on investment is just not there yet.
As an engineer, I can make it work. I can't make it work economically.
Meffert would like to see the oil companies contribute to that research.
If we are going to explore oil and gas, and we are, then part of that needs to go into investments in renewable energy.
But those on the right accuse the Obama administration of trying to mandate that type of investment and interfere with the free market system.
It's worth noting that candidate Obama, when it came to global warming legislation, he admitted that the goals of what he would like to do is to cause electricity rates to necessarily skyrocket. That was a very good way of putting it, because the whole point of carbon cap and trade, of global warming legislation, is to force prices up so people are forced to use less or forced to move to alternatives that wouldn't be able to compete otherwise.
If we want to spend money on research to improve the economics, that's one thing. If we want to say we're going to force the decision by shutting off access to hydrocarbons, we're just going to turn the lights out.
But Obama and those on the left claim the U.S. does not have many alternatives at this point.
The easily accessible oil has already been sucked up out of the ground. And as we are moving forward, the technology gets more complicated. The oil sources are more remote, and that means that there's probably going to end up being more risk.
Smith says deep shore drilling domestically is by far safer than importing foreign oil.
Most of the spills worldwide, and certainly most of the spills in the United States that have happened in the last 50 years, are a result of transportation accidents. And I don't think anybody will dispute that.
And that's why when I went to the Republican caucus just this week, I said to them, let's work together. And there is currently a plan in the Senate, a plan that was developed with ideas from Democrats and Republicans that would achieve the same goal. If nothing else, this disaster should serve as a wake-up call that it's time to move forward on this legislation.
But Lieberman says that Senate bill is not an honest attempt by the Democrats at bipartisanship.
There isn't much middle ground here, or attempts to actually achieve a middle ground here, and maybe there shouldn't be, because this is a bill that's very problematic, this Senate global warming bill, and tweaking it here and there still would leave it as a bad bill.
Offshore drilling, like most issues in Washington politics, has those on the right and left deeply divided. And this spill in the Gulf of Mexico will only add fuel to the fire of that debate. Joe Ball, CCTV, Venice. One of the ugly side of sport reared its head this week with the ongoing news of anabolic steroid and performance enhancement drug use in sport. But with all the news, what is not being talked about is the real, tangible, debilitating effects of anabolic steroid use. Nate Lewis this week found some soldiers on the front line of the battle between natural ability and chemically enhanced performance. That's right, Jonathan, and there's more. These two schools are only a couple of miles apart. There's a big rivalry going on tonight. Last year, the Garfield Indians made a big state playoff run. The team that knocked them out of the playoffs was their opponent tonight, the Woodbridge Vikings. You got to see Woodbridge a couple of weeks ago against Forest Park. You know about DeAntoine Williams. He is big and fast at 200 pounds. But Woodbridge also has another speedster, Demetrius Quarles, number 3, and they have got a strong defense, returning 9 starters from that state title game a year ago. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Oakton, Virginia. I'm Joe Ball from XPreps.com. The Oakton Cougars come into tonight's game 5-3 and a long shot for the playoffs, but they would certainly like to take a chip out of the Westfield Bulldogs, arguably the #1 team in the Northern region. The Bulldogs come in 8-0 tonight, and certainly they are in the driver's seat for playoff position in the Concord District.
Bulldogs, Cougars, right now!